All right. Land Use and Planning Standing Committee, November 12th. That's not accurate. We put the wrong date on that. November 26th.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
All right. So we'll wait till Cynthia gets here to review minutes. So essentially, Dave asked me to have the airport interlocal agreement master plan discussion for what we'd like to see for public input. So we still have the master plan to review and approve, but we haven't seen it yet.
Right, yeah.
So essentially what we are talking about is what kind of discussion and public input do we want on this master plan? Is there a way that we want to implement that? Do we want to hold a public forum? Do we want to hold a meeting where people can ask questions? And are there certain members that we would like to see there? Like, that's kind of the discussion around that right now.
Well, obviously, if we're gonna have input on the master plan, we need to have a meeting that's announced and
Yep.
advertised
Mhm.
that we are going to have an airport master plan and we're looking for public input.
I agree. So, and then my thought with that is we are getting into the holidays.
Yeah, it would have to be after the first of the year.
Yeah. And that's the thing, without even seeing it yet, like knowing the details, ins and outs of it, we don't have a survey approved yet.
Well, I think the discussion was that the survey was going to be approved at the same time as the
Yeah, I think it's
interlocal.
Part of it.
Yeah, they don't want to do part of it and not the rest. So,
They are meeting with FAA, I guess, is gonna come in and they're having a meeting with the FAA to find out, this is my understanding, so I could be wrong, with the airport board, county commissioners and Dave, to find out what exactly they need to do regarding the master plan, adopting the master plan, what steps need to be taken, so that we don't have to pay back all the money that the FAA gave us to write the master plan.
Gotcha.
If we don't adopt a master plan or finish it, we have to pay all that money back.
Gotcha.
And so they're gonna meet with the FAA, find out, the timeline, find out what exactly is going to be required of us and, the county commissioners and the airport board on that master plan. So we might wait until after that meeting to actually pick a date.
I think that's smart.
So that was kind of my understanding. So I think we just need to decide how much, according to, the person who wrote the master plan, there was already public hearings and, announced meetings and stuff like that went into creating the master plan.
Mhm.
But I think it was more on the county level, like, we're having this meeting, come and talk, so I think
they had it.
they had it, yeah. So I think on the city's end, it's like, do we want to do our own public hearings, to try to get more input? I mean, it's not, the master plan is basically written.
Gotcha.
It's just going to be adopting the master
So
plan.
it has been written.
It's written, and the FAA has had it this whole time.
So didn't the newspaper say that that the FAA wasn't going to approve it, or there was something?
No, they pulled out. They don't want, they do not want to fund Red Lodge Airport.
Yeah.
But we still have to do the master plan, and we're gonna have to pay back the money that we spent.
Yeah,
The FAA
whether they want to do the airport or not.
Correct.
No, yeah, the FAA said they are not going to give us, an FAA designation. They are not going to give us funding.
Yep.
And, in the master plan, it had tweaking the runway and shortening it 400 feet. And that was on the guidelines. That's what the FAA said we would have to do to get FAA funding. And now they're coming back and saying, well, your airport is, your runway is shorter, so now we're not gonna give you funding. I'm like, and they're like, that's what you told us we had to do to get funding. Basically, what they think it boils down to is that, the FAA has run out of money, and there's bigger airports that are after what's left, and we're the bottom of the barrel.
Gotcha.
And that bigger airport that's after it is Bozeman.
Gotcha.
So, our little dinky little airport over here, I think there's probably a lot of little ones that if they were trying to get back into it or not. It's just not gonna happen with this go around. So it's not anything that we did, except for the fact that if we wouldn't have blown it up last year,
Mhm.
It might have gone
it
through.
might have gone through.
We just waited too long.
We waited, yeah, I mean,
Well,
that's.
a little bit of that, and then a little bit of,
Yeah,
you know, we
money
see that you
politics.
guys are
Yeah,
wish-washy, or that there's issues with your airport versus like
Apparently
getting full
there's
support.
issues, yeah, we just didn't
Yeah,
slap it together and get it done.
yeah, yeah, and it's not, you know, I think, you know, we worked really hard last year to try to save it, to try to
Yep.
get things rolling again. It's a lot once that agreement got blown up, trying to get the town of Bridger, the city of Red Lodge, and the county commissioners all on the same page again.
yeah,
It was not a quick, easy fix,
nope,
period.
We have
So,
too many
If we wouldn't
parts.
have blown up the agreement last year, you know, it just put us, I mean, it put us back 2 years
yeah,
of trying to get that together and trying.
Yeah,
You know, and it doesn't mean that down the road we might not be able to reapply.
sure,
But I know that the airport board is also looking at, other options as well. You know,
Gotcha.
but right now, we will not be moving the airport because, moving the runway.
mhm,
Gonna leave it
because
alone.
Yeah, because they have a private grant, private funding to recap it and get more life out of the existing one.
gotcha.
So that's gonna stay that way, you know, I think they need to start, looking at other locations for the airport, for the growth.
again,
For the growth that we're experiencing and the demand that's happening up there. Because moving it is not like a next year thing, it's a 20-year thing.
Yeah,
and many, many millions.
And it is. But you need to start, if you're gonna move it, you know, and it's gonna be 20 years from now, you have to start looking now. Like,
Yeah.
where are you gonna put it? What's it gonna look like? You know, you need, those kind of plans need to start happening. And, you know, and you need to look and see what happened the last time they looked at it. There was some, zoning that took place where people, you know, did not in my backyard type
Of
of
course
thing.
not.
mhm,
So I don't even know, they don't even know, they're pulling all of that information out too.
Yeah.
Because basically the FAA will not fund our airport because the runway's too short. Too, I mean, that's.
And there's no way to
urgency.
make it longer,
And
so.
there's no way to make it longer unless you close Brewery Hill. And that's, or not Brewery Hill, but I mean White Avenue going down.
Still,
the other
even
side.
that, yeah,
The other way, yeah, so, you know, what we need to do is we need to decide how many public hearings do we want. And we have to pass a master plan, and we're gonna have to pay back all the
Sure.
funding, so.
Again, I don't think we need to have a bunch of public hearings. Mostly, I think there's been a lot of misconception and a lot of information going around about the airport, the master plan, the interlocal agreement,
Yeah,
all of those things. And it would be nice to have a public session where, one, it's informative, just lots of education
This is where
on,
we are now.
exactly, this is where we're at,
Exactly.
where we are now. This is the goals of what the airport is doing. This is the priority of
yeah.
the board and the folks that are using it, and also the priorities for the folks involved with the interlocal agreement.
And we can talk about all of the uses of the airport, including the emergency services section of it.
There's so
Yep.
much.
There is,
So,
you know, so
yeah.
I think that kind of needs to be part of it. And then
Mhm.
I think we need to, like I say, it's good for them to have that information from the FAA on why we still have to pass the master plan.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure,
you know,
absolutely,
And, you know, that we're gonna be on the hook for a lot of money if we don't.
right.
And then also, you know, maybe they'll have had a meeting where they can talk about the future of the airport, you know, down the road. You know, because there's people that don't want the airport there, so maybe it'll be good news for them. It's like, yeah, we are looking,
It's 'cause they have-
looking for another place to move it, but it's gonna be probably 20 years from now.
They have no idea how it affects our local economy.
Right.
And that's really the problem, is that they have no idea how that airport affects our local economy, and it does, besides emergencies.
Yeah, I mean, it's the safety of our community too, I mean.
Well, there are rich people that fly in and
Yeah.
spend a lot of money in this town.
Yeah, I think so. That's one thing in terms of the information that we'd like to see. So the benefits of the airport,
Yeah,
so obviously emergency services, maybe having someone from the fire department, DES, search and rescue, someone along those
right,
lines.
Yeah.
kind of give a presentation,
Oh,
'cause,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, in the future of, what, this master plan is good for right now, but
Right.
what, down the road,
At what point do we have to relocate it?
Yeah.
That's,
And if that's gonna happen, that's gonna happen, those plans will start now.
right, so I think that would
But it's
be,
not gonna move anytime soon,
no. No, it is what it is.
so, yeah, I do believe we should have some sort of public meeting. Do you have any idea when they're meeting with the FAA?
I do not.
Okay, so that might be something we would get cleared up. I'd also be interested in going to that just out of curiosity and education's sake. Like, I don't know, I feel like I have barely scratched the surface on the airport.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of going by a lot of, what I've heard from, like, Jeff and from Dave.
Mhm.
And, I haven't actually officially been to an airport board meeting since last year. And
Right.
that's been very deliberate on my part not to.
That's fair.
So, mine's all secondhand information. So it might behoove us, to actually go to an airport board meeting if we have time, just so we can be
Oh, yeah.
there when they're discussing this, so we know when we
Mhm.
go, that we can actually, be informed and answer these questions, instead of going, well, I heard.
And that's exactly it. Like, I like to know the information straight from the folks that
Yeah,
have it. And again, hearing the he said, she said stuff is,
yeah,
I get pretty worn on that. So it's nice to actually
Yeah.
have the facts.
absolutely.
And again, being able to ask some of those questions and get
Yeah.
diversify answers a little
Right,
bit.
and it could be that we have, our city representative, maybe one of our city representatives on the airport board
Yeah.
at that meeting, and we have Dave at that meeting,
Mhm.
and maybe have, one of the county, Bill Bullock there.
Oh, sure. Yep.
So that they can be the panel that's actually
Yep.
answering those questions. And like you say, if we have DES, someone from the,
Fire,
emergency services
fire,
there,
yeah.
you can get Serena there or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
That would
even
be
having
great.
the chamber there, that,
Yeah.
I think that could be beneficial.
Right,
Because, I mean, again, talking about the economic impacts of it, and, because I can't say that I know those numbers off the top of my head. I can't,
yeah.
I don't know who these rich people are coming in, but I would like to meet them.
well, I've met some, and I know, one guy bought a $2 million house, and now he's gonna buy a plane,
Okay,
because, he wants to fly in.
yep, and I mean, I have friends that have, like, a friend that her dad flies in, and he's not a rich man, but, like,
Right.
it allows him to come and see his family at faster pace from Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely, and then we have people that are, concerned that, the rules out there aren't really being enforced.
Yep,
So I'd like someone to be able to address that, if people are flying in jets that are not actually supposed to land.
yeah, it'd be
Is
nice
that
to have
being-
some checks and balances up there.
Is that actually happening, or is technology on these new jets such that they
It
can
can
land
use
on
the-
those, they
They
can
could use a shorter one,
that they can
Yeah.
use the, it looks kind of,
that we don't know.
we need the
technical.
facts, instead of
Yeah.
just going, oh, there's a jet that flew in, and, that's against the rules, and,
It's not against the rules, the concern is the length of the runway.
well, I know, but there is, like, FAA rules and guidelines on size of planes versus size of runways, so
Right.
are the rules actually being broken?
Yeah, and that's it.
What
The
I'm
Same
saying.
with the hangars, we hear a lot,
Yeah.
there's a lot of buzz about
Yeah.
the hangars not being used appropriately, and who's in charge of enforcing it.
Yeah, and I think that would
Because there are
be,
rules.
and that's it, I think it'd be really nice to have that clarification of who is in charge of enforcing the rules, what's that process look like, and what does
Yeah.
it look like for the civilians who have concerns?
Yeah.
Because, again, I think that there should absolutely be checks and balances. I feel there have been some flights that have made me uncomfortable, where they're getting awfully close to some certain things, and it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
so that's a move.
Yeah.
But I also don't know, and again,
Yeah.
I think it's fair that there should be someone who does know that people can reach out to.
Yeah.
So I think personally, I think that would be all great information to have at this, if whether it's a forum or a public hearing, it doesn't, whatever.
Honestly,
Because the official public hearings for that have already happened.
right,
Whether or not we,
Informational.
yeah, I personally would like to have like a big public forum information session for people.
yep,
And then, when council itself is tasked with adopting it. I don't know if we have to have like a public hearing then before we adopt it or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And that
Because
would
again,
just
it's
be
gonna
here.
be technical,
And that would just be here
yeah.
for that part, but maybe.
I think it's obviously how we've been doing our steps, is where you have the open discussion, people can ask their questions,
Yeah,
speak their minds, and then the following, if there's any questions that arise that we feel are worth investigating, we're not necessarily voting on it that day.
right.
Yeah.
So again, just, especially at this point, we're not getting a grant from the FAA. We already
Right.
have one that we have to,
Pay
like,
back.
fulfill, but,
Yeah, we have to fulfill or pay back. So
yeah,
that's-
and so it'd be nice to know that timeline.
Yeah, and they
Um,
are supposed to be, I'm not sure when that meeting is, where they just said that they will be meeting
Okay,
to figure out what steps they need to do to complete that process,
yep,
so they do not have to pay it back.
excellent. Well, I think that's a good start for that, because I do think it's important.
Yeah, and I think we could have, if we can get buy-in from the county commissioners and, you know, the county, the DES, and I think it would be something we could do at Roosevelt Center in the big room.
Yeah,
That would be, you know, where we have everybody up on stage and we have everybody talk and people
Yep.
ask questions. I don't know, just some type of format like that. I don't know how many people we would get there, but the number of people that I have heard from that have either misinformation or are upset about stuff, I would hope that they would attend something like that.
exactly. And then I think also, you know, there'd probably be some sort of news coverage in terms of Carbon County News and the Montana Independent.
Yeah,
I feel we can obviously put it on Zoom
yeah,
and make that available. The foundation's always been super helpful when it comes to putting those things on, so
Yeah.
I think that would probably be the best course. And again, ideally sooner than later,
right,
but I like the idea of doing it after that meeting.
right.
So one, it gives us an opportunity to go educate ourselves, and then two, gives a chance to kind of solidify some of that information that might still be up in the air.
Okay.
Okay, well, good. RV parks and city limits discussion. So, we did receive correspondence, last
A while
council
back.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And essentially just saying like, you know, why are we thinking about this? Whose idea? Like, are we thinking the city runs it? Is it gonna be zoning? Do we feel that that's something that makes sense in town? And one of the thought processes behind this, like, what we're talking about is this something that, one, has this been coming up at all in the downtown master plan growth policy discussions?
Of course.
And,
It's been in zoning for years, and there's never been an appropriate place to put it within the city limits.
mhm,
And we always felt that there's an RV park that direction, an RV park that direction, good enough.
right,
But what happened was with the motel that had built the small RV park, that kind of blew up again at planning board, but there just isn't an appropriate place for it without knocking down some buildings. And do we really want to see that on our main drag? I mean, do we want to put it in a residential area? No.
so,
well, go ahead.
I was gonna say, is that something that is the consensus of the planning board? Is that been something that you've been hearing from input? Like, 'cause, I mean, personally, I don't have an issue with it being on the main drag coming in, like, say, for
No,
instance,
I don't either.
if we were to annex right there across the street from the brewery, I'd be fine with that. In one of our community entrances, I have no issue. Obviously, I don't want it downtown.
But our community entrance is a community entrance. That's why they went way overboard before me on the planning board of having all the parking being behind or beside those big buildings.
Sure.
And the plan was that we didn't want big parking lots as you drive into Red Lodge.
So if we annex in that northern part that wants to be annexed in, there is a lot of land by the creek that wouldn't necessarily be seen from Highway 212, that
It
I
would
would
have to
think.
be screened, they would have to build, they'd have to plant,
Oh, yeah.
it would have to be
So, and-
properly
Well, and
Right.
screened.
And that's the thing, I don't have an issue with having regulation of how it's done.
but,
and making it look nice and attractive. But I do think that is absolutely a tourism market that comes throughout the country, and I think it's something that would be,
we
We
heard
already
camping.
have it, why does it have to be in the city limits?
Because when we were talking about camping, that was one of the main things, is people don't wanna they wanna be able to camp in the city limits, so they
Yep.
don't have to drive.
But if they're north of town, they're gonna drive, they're not gonna be walking. So we're not gonna put it in the downtown area.
well, what I'm saying is, even then, they might be walking, you'd be surprised. You would be surprised, Sandy, and then
It's
also,
certainly not walkable as far as I can see, that's not walkable.
But, and there's also down
Our
by-
north by
Parks
the
within
brewery.
city limits.
Yeah, and there's also, like, by the Eagles Nest, there's, that whole area there would, even though it's in the floodway, you could have dry camping spots in there.
Yep.
According to what we were
FEMA.
heard in FEMA, you can't even put in anything that's cement.
No,
Because-
that's not right.
This
I-
is what David told us, because I asked if we could put in, a parking lot or a gazebo in where Bastions is, and I was told absolutely
You-
not,
you
because
cannot-
that could get hit by water, and then it would go downstream and knock out our
You
bridges.
cannot put in any permanent structure.
Exactly.
Okay, so, but gravel is not permanent.
Yep.
You could have gravel spots,
That would be it. That would
dry
be it.
camping,
that's
dry
what,
camping,
that's all you would need.
that's all you need.
And again, they could plant lots of trees, they can make it really
Lots of trees.
attractive.
And then I jumped in on this last,
So, no, it's just why are we, the question was, why are we even bringing this up? And it really came down to the fact that everybody was talking about camping up by rodeo and the city doing it. Well, the city doesn't want to be in the camping business.
Nope.
So if we're not going to be in the camping business, then we really should let private enterprise have that opportunity.
Mhm.
And so, but to do that, you have to zone for it.
Right.
And just because you zone for it doesn't necessarily mean something's going to happen.
well, and then isn't it usually like where you have to like get permission to do it still, like the?
You-
Oh, yeah, there's lots of,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a lot of
It would
hoops
be-
to go
It
through.
would be conditional use, it has to go through the state DEQ, I
And
mean,
it
there's
wouldn't
like a
pass
whole.
through the state, because then you'd have to have a sewage dump there.
Well,
Not
not
for
for
dry-
dry
not
camping.
for
Not for dry camping.
I think we're referring to this more of like temporary parking type camping, correct? Like,
Yeah.
it's not like,
And again,
Well, no, I mean, like, if
No.
if we annex in south, or we annex in north, and
Right.
someone wants to do an RV park, like a
Right.
full-blown RV park, I mean, do we wanna be able to zone for that? Now, just because we may not have room for it in the town right now,
Mhm.
but you can still,
right, well, and I think
Still
that's,
zone
I think
for
that's
it.
what people are concerned about, like, on the corridors, I can see there's room, right?
yeah.
Versus someone who has a private lot down here.
Well, no, I mean, if, like, the Alpine, they were able to, that was a regular commercial lot, and they were able to get, what, six in or eight?
Six.
Yeah, and it looks really
Six.
nice.
yeah, I
Like,
think-
we're not saying these are gonna be like giant,
No, I mean,
And-
and if someone did buy the Eagles Nest, and, I mean, there is part of that land that is not in the floodway that they could develop.
I thought
And
that
then you
was
could have-
true, but
and
I'm
then
not
you-
sure it is.
But it may not be, it's all in the special flood hazard area,
Dave said that
But the
new
whole thing-
FEMA map that he had
Yeah.
seen that hasn't been adopted yet,
Mhm.
the entire thing right up to Broadway is in the floodway.
they put the whole thing in the floodway.
That's what he said, that the new
That
FEMA
really
map.
surprises me.
Because I was saying,
Oh,
those
so
are
they're in the
individual
map.
things, you
Yeah.
could knock those
Apparently
out.
it's very
Those-
interesting.
Those have
Yeah.
value, so, why not just do the back ones and then let them sell the front ones, have some value? He says the new FEMA map has it all the way to Broadway.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
I want to too, because isn't that part of the plan?
Because there's a whole difference between being in the special flood hazard area and being in the floodway.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I would really like, but that's kind of beside the point. I
Yeah.
just think that you could put in zoning that in, see, not the very downtown, but like, you could make it a conditional use.
Yeah, and
And then
again,
everything has to go
have
through.
pretty strict restrictions on it. It might be a certain size lot that you can do it on.
Yeah.
And again, having trees, having those pieces, because another piece of that too that we get a lot of issues with, people complaining about parking downtown, and these folks that are bringing in their RVs,
They take up a lot of
they
space.
take up a lot of space. Or you have folks that are here and they have their family sleeping in front of their house in their RV. Now maybe they have a place where they can have a spot booked for the
Yeah,
summertime.
and they don't have to go all the way down to KOA or all the way south of town.
Prepared.
Yep,
They can be
Or
right in town.
briny.
Yeah.
Yep.
I lean more towards no way, Jose, because we already have two big, huge campgrounds for RVs.
And they're booked solid all year
I'm not,
long.
I don't know that they are. That's the other thing, is I don't know what the need is right now. And I can't honestly think of any space that I think would be appropriate for an RV that's within walking distance between Eighth and 14th.
knock the lupine down.
Oh, no, the loop.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the people that live across the street would be happy with an RV park across the street, but they already have.
A hotel, it's a different.
Again, or what about the hospital space? Like, there are places that could be considered for that kind of thing, and,
Now,
I know people
in
who
most towns,
pull up
like,
to the
when you go into
hospital
Miles
there.
City, if you go in right down Main Street, it's just right there on the left. There's a big KOA right there on the Tongue River.
yeah,
that
there's
in
a
city
lot of
limits?
those.
Yeah, it's in the
Yeah.
city limits.
And that's the
Those
thing, is I
downtown
think you
right
could do
now.
it tastefully enough that I am absolutely not opposed for zoning for it, but I think that we can absolutely come to compromise with it too.
Yeah.
Well, I think there has to be, and that's where the compromise comes in, like, I think it'll ease people's minds saying, look, this isn't us saying, hey, free
Yeah,
for
free
all.
for all, no,
Right.
it's like
No.
conditional,
This is conditional, this is strict, this is going, the hard part is to prove our enforcement of all.
well, zoning's
Well, that's-
different.
Yeah,
That's
zoning-
easy. Zoning
yeah.
is fairly easy. It's
Yeah.
enforceable easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially
And that's something that they
conditional
have to get that all approved and planned
Yeah.
before they start. Like, it's
Right.
not like, you know, you're having to find
know,
a food truck that's running
Cause
around
like,
town.
what
kind
if
of
like,
thing.
you know,
Well, and if it is in town, I mean, you could have strict limitations on use of, generators.
right, well, like, what if
Or-
Cousin Eddie shows
Especially if
up
it's
and
dry
then, like,
camping,
none of
then
his
now
kids
you've
fit
got
in the camper,
noise.
so now all of a sudden there's teenagers in tents parked out, you know, camped outside of the RV.
Yep.
Like, what is permissible, what's not.
Yeah, and I think that's all behavior that you can nip
I
and
agree.
set
Boundaries.
boundaries.
And because all we're doing is we're zoning for it,
Yeah.
and that it's a conditional use. And the
Yep.
conditional use permit is what's going to play all that out,
Because again, it is,
depending on where it's at.
because especially after COVID, it became a massive travel point.
Mhm.
Like, this is how people travel now. A lot of people bought RVs, and this is how they wanna go. I mean, you have
I
things
think-
like Harvest Associate, people that stay in their vans. I mean, again,
I
like,
think if
we
we
have
had
our
more-
van,
no.
and I'm not doing this because, like, I think that, you know, there's a lot of people like me out there, where, I mean, I've straight up slept, like, we
In our
rented an RV spot at a casino parking lot, just so we could have showers and a bathroom. It was dry camping, we didn't have any sort of, like,
Well,
outlet, we did
But
have
that was a
Wi-Fi.
completely commercial space. It wasn't surrounded by homes.
It was, though, you have your casino, and then there was neighborhoods all
Yeah.
around us.
My thing is, we don't have, no one is coming in and building another resort. No one's coming in and building another motel. There are no, like, applications for another sleep-in or,
Yeah.
you know.
Well,
Nor do we want
The
that
lupine could
necessarily.
be knocked down and started over.
Yeah,
Could be.
right, and
Right,
that's
but
what I'm
no-
saying, is like,
But
But
it's not a
we
new
don't-
motel, it would just be replacing one we already
Yeah,
have.
yeah, it
So-
would be,
but I mean, again, and I think about, so there's some folks out there that they would probably rather have a little campground behind their house with trees and foliage, rather than having massive, high-density residential. And again, to me, it's all about what the property owner wishes to do. And again, there's ways to protect it without necessarily saying, no, not at all.
Right. And I'm pretty sure, like, if, you know, Joe, whatever, Schmo wants to build one, he's gonna go to his neighbors and have to get approval, and all his neighbors
Well,
say
and
absolutely
right
not.
now, the way it is, because it's not in the zoning as a conditional use, when it happens, it's going right to council. You're totally bypassing planning board right now. And that's what happens a lot, I mean, basically, it became council decision on that RV park.
I know that it was discussed at planning board, but I wasn't there for
Yeah.
that one,
Mhm.
and I know that it didn't go over well
His brother.
with the planning board.
Right.
Besides the fact that it was done prior to getting approval,
Well, it's because
yeah.
there was
and-
a
and-
handshake deal, or, yeah, go ahead and do this and this and this.
Yeah, yeah, it was,
Yeah.
it was
they were told one thing and it wasn't what
Yeah.
it was supposed to, the way it
Yeah.
was supposed
So
to be.
this is part of the conversation, is it something that we wanna table until we see some direction coming from master plan or growth policy? Or do we wanna be providing some direction for master plan and growth policy,
Oh.
Yeah.
saying that this is something that we do wanna see? And it might be we put out like community input on it,
I think we need
because
to
I
do
think
it.
there's really strong feelings left and right on it.
Agreed.
And again, for me personally, I don't have an issue with it. I think it's a great benefit and asset to the community and a really affordable option.
I like that we are giving it our, like, it's gonna happen. Like, if it doesn't happen now, within the next 10 years, it's going to happen, right?
Someone's gonna come in.
And so the fact that we're being proactive now and putting in the guidelines and the zoning rules and all that, like, that's what I like.
Appropriate place for it.
Exactly,
Right.
and finding the appropriate place versus in 10 years from now, or 5 years, it's gonna be like, oh,
Well, I mean, and we
Yeah.
all know what happened with marijuana dispensaries. Planning board had just, it was totally not allowed in our planning document.
There's one
and-
spot.
But it
Yeah,
wasn't
no.
changed
One
once the
spot,
state,
yeah.
once the state changed the rules, the planning board didn't go back in and fix it.
Right, no,
That's
they
what
didn't.
happened with that.
Yeah, I know, and it got thrown in council's lap,
It got
and
thrown
I
in
wanted to send it back to planning board to fix it. I'm
And it
like,
probably should have gone back to planning board
Right,
to,
and instead, you know, so I don't want this to be something similar where planning board hasn't allowed for it, and all of a sudden, you know, it gets stuck in council's lap. I want planning board to zone for it as a conditional use, like what commercial what commercial section,
it would be a location.
would it be a conditional use?
and that way we have the control over it.
And it could be
Yeah.
conditional, like, all the way down, there's no place where it's 100% allowed, it's all conditional,
Oh, it would have to be.
you know, that's what I
Right.
mean, so it's.
Because it's also, you know, the state rules as well.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, but, you know, then they have to present their design, because basically, isn't it kind of a subdivision? When
It
they
is,
do that,
exactly, it has to go through
So, yeah,
subdivision.
they
rules.
have
Well,
to
that's
go through subdivision, it's conditional use,
Yeah, it's not an
What-
easy process.
no,
Not just
at all.
gonna,
So like I said, change is gonna happen, it's gonna happen eventually, I'd rather address
I know.
it and have the control
Well,
over
and
it
like I
now.
say, if we do end up annexing in, you know, south and north,
I mean, shoot, even if the
Then-
Spires places fell through or they turned those into campsites up there.
That's not walkable, so.
It's again, Sandy, your version of walkable, my version of walkable, and, you know, 20-year-old young man down the street might be very different.
My concept of walkable is within a mile or two.
Which that's,
that would be a mile.
yeah, and especially with the trail systems, like, that's, I mean, I have had many
People walk
conversations.
down, you'd be surprised at how many people walk down from Perry's.
Well,
Yeah.
and they
That
could be
is
bringing their
insane.
bicycle, but I'm not gonna ride my bike from KOA, like, down by Fox.
Especially
I'd
when
get
there's-
killed.
Yeah, no, that's extremely
No, but
dangerous.
But,
The amount of people, like, during the summers that we watch walking up and down from Perry's.
Oh, yeah.
is
Or
like-
even from the Spires,
Wow.
or, again, walkable has a very different definition, or again, e-bikes, people coming through, or just regular
Oh.
bicycles,
Mhm.
like, that's a very doable trip for a lot of folks. I
So-
mean, like, when I
Well,
go to
they're
a
not
city, I'm
buying
walking
enough then.
2-3 miles just to
They're
get
not
across
buying
the city.
enough, they need a car to put all the stuff they bought in.
They got backpacks. So again, I think
Okay.
that,
Anyway, but,
Well, the planning board doesn't have a meeting this month, so.
right, yep,
And we'll probably only have one in December.
okay.
And so I'll bring it up there and, I haven't seen anything so far in the downtown master plan at all addressing
Well, and it
that.
wouldn't necessarily be in the downtown master plan, because that wouldn't be the right place to have that. And people keep trying to make the downtown master plan into like the whole
Red line,
corridor,
growth
and it's
policy.
not. I
Well,
mean,
right
it's-
now-
It's literally the
the
downtown
historical
area.
downtown,
Right now, the
Yes.
draft
Well, there's also
actually
discussion of expanding.
says that the downtown area runs from Platt over to Hauser, and I can't think of much that's on Platt that I would include in the downtown plan.
I think
That's
it's
just one of my
impacted
notes.
directly, and that's, because, I mean, when we were sitting in at those sessions, that was,
Hauser for sure.
a lot of that conversation was like, is this potential for expansion for, whether it's parking, again, downtown shops, all of those types of things, like,
I know, I would,
you know, you got this here, that could be,
It could be, there's some, but not very much.
Not very much, but again,
Not,
it's
not enough to be
now.
included as part of the
No, I
historical
think
downtown.
Hauser,
Sure.
definitely, 'cause
Yeah,
it kind of
definitely.
become like
You'll have
second
it-
Main Street.
shoot, even
Yeah.
Dillard and
Original
Oaks
Main
and
Street,
some
yeah.
places,
Yeah,
like,
that's it, yeah, that's
Well, like
Yeah.
I said,
Old Street.
we've got a master plan draft, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody's making comments on it. And, you know,
Who's
we'll address,
everyone?
everybody on the planning board
Oh.
is making comments on it before it ever goes out to anybody else. The planning board should get it a little tighter than what Great West did. Because, you know, Great West doesn't live here, so.
Are we, is Brett gonna be, do we have correspondence, did I have correspondence?
It was actually in the packet for tonight, I had to find it.
Oh, okay, 'cause I.
Yeah.
Basically,
he put it on the, like, he brought it to council last week.
Oh, gotcha, okay,
Yep.
that's the
Brett,
one we're
Brett
talking about.
is a planner.
Yeah,
Yep.
but
And
I
he
didn't know if
says
we were,
absolutely, we should not be zoning for RV parks.
Yeah.
no.
That's the gist of it.
That being said, I've met a lot of great planners. I don't know
Every
Brent.
planner's gonna say something different.
Right, for sure.
Yeah, so again, there's, everyone's got their own opinions. And I think that it's important to weigh it in, but I think that there's a way to compromise. And I think it would provide a nice asset while still being attractive and still have the culture of Red Lodge built into it. 'Cause I think it's a big part of us is
Do I want
we're
camping?
outdoorsy folks.
Right, and do I want people camping in my backyard?
No.
Absolutely not. But, do I know that eventually, with time, this is the way it's going, especially with everything
And I would
else?
like to be able to provide alternatives to people parking their RVs here in front of houses.
Leaving
and-
garbage
They're
in
still
front of
gonna do that
people.
because they hook into power with, and then they
Oh,
have a
sure.
bathroom within walking.
But it
you
is
know,
nice to
twice
be able to
every
have that
bathroom.
option to where it's like, if you do have someone who's like, my aunt's coming into town, and you know what, I'm gonna be a good neighbor and not take my neighbor's parking spot.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Like,
we
well,
have
there's an
more of
RV
those than the
park
other.
Right here in town, you can just
Yep.
go right there.
Yeah,
But
and
if
my
you
cousin
have
came
to
into town,
pee,
they
it's a
had
bit
to-
of a walk.
Well, some of them might have restrooms, like, you know, an actual facility.
Yeah, then they just go dump it where they leave.
Yeah, the dump is different, yeah.
Yeah, so, again, I think that it's definitely worth, I think, bringing to planning board, and I think if we go back through some of the comments that were made during the planning session, and just some commentary that we got while talking about camping in city limits, I think that there is an interest in having that in town.
Well, I think it's a compromise, because if people don't want people camping, just dry camping anywhere, the city in charge of it, this would,
And that's hard to
this is
enforce.
compromise, then we
Exactly.
have
That is
to
so hard to enforce.
have a private, you know, business who's actually there 24
Well,
hours a
held
day
accountable
watching it.
Yep.
for all of it.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
that we don't end up like Bozeman with people
Right, I
camping
mean, if you-
Oh,
everywhere.
well, which
Right.
is what I'm worried that if we aren't proactive now, that eventually
Yep.
we're
I
gonna
mean,
end up
that's
with.
also a big boon for businesses here in this area. I need to use that.
I'm
I know.
fighting with that one.
That's my city council of Ringtown, actually. Telling you, it says turtle power right afterward. But, what I was gonna say with that is, it also provides an opportunity for potential extended stays, like 30 days, 60 days, because I mean, there's a lot of folks that work seasonally up at the mountain, having a place where that they can be parking, not on the turnoffs going up to the ski run,
Yeah.
or the
Well-
different parks that are supposed to be closed and campgrounds that are supposed to be closed, or, again, rotating around through town. I mean, I think back to when we had the bus living there in front of the Lupine for a
Yeah.
few months. Like, so again, providing that opportunity where people can have an affordable place, that legally they can be parked, have some services,
Mhm.
and it brings in a population that I think Red Lodge attracts, and that we serve on a regular basis. So,
Word.
all right, so I think that was a good starting point there. Do we need any more direction from there? Sandy, do you feel like you wanna mention this to planning board, or?
Definitely, I made a note that it would go to planning board to discuss.
Okay,
You know,
Perfect.
that the committee is thinking about it,
mhm,
Mm-hmm.
and so the planning board should as well, especially with the growth policy coming up.
exactly,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I just think too, like, you know, with future annexation, you know, like, what are those, you know, C3, you know,
Mm-hmm.
C1,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
What does
where-
that look like in our future?
Yeah,
Yep.
obviously you wouldn't want it like C4 where it's right downtown,
We don't want
You
people
know.
downtown.
No.
yeah, it would have to be you know, more.
And they're
Yeah.
very, the planning board has always been very restrictive of our community entrances. So that's,
Shows. No,
Yeah.
sorry.
no, the concept was not to drive into the community into a big parking lot. So they've
Yeah.
been always very, very conscious about
Yeah.
that.
It's one thing I could absolutely see
The hospital
happening
allowed
to
it in the
AY.
front,
Mhm.
but it was with restrictions.
Yeah, and it's very tasteful, like,
Well, that herd of trees helps.
yeah. And that's just it, it's like, I mean, I think about AY Supply, like, that would be a prime location for a really pretty campground.
Like
And-
how, yeah.
And if you put enough foliage and
Well, and that's
green
what
space,
people don't, like, yeah.
And it could be on city services.
exactly.
See, an RV
Ah.
park should be on city services.
No, I agree, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, no,
You
you,
start with that.
yeah.
Dry camping is another thing. It's one thing to have just
You
camping
can have electric.
and no RVs.
You
Yeah.
can do dry camping and have electric hookups.
And I think
That
hard-sided
don't have-
should absolutely be a
Absolutely.
requirement.
Don't have water and,
Hard-sided has to be.
Yeah, because if you have just,
I'm not opening that door.
pop-up tents
No, thank
and
you.
bears and, yeah, hard-sided, I think, is very important in that regard, but.
But look what happened at Perry's.
Perry's.
that was
Wow.
a tent.
And that was,
It was an RV, and then they had the kids outside the RV
Exactly.
with the
Yeah.
tent.
that's what I was, yeah.
That's why we say it should be hard-served,
Yeah.
hard-sided
With
only.
food.
No tent camping, is
Yeah.
what we're saying.
Yeah, no tent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I
Zero.
think that Perry's had that same rule.
No.
They don't
Oh.
have that rule? They
I
probably
think
do
they're pretty,
now.
they're pretty lax,
Yeah.
from my understanding,
Mm.
obviously.
But that's where your conditional use comes in, and you
Exactly.
say, you can have an RV park, but no tent camping.
And especially, that's a really easy one to see, it's like, oh, fine, like,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
shut it down, like, and that's the
Well,
other thing.
and, I mean, the people who are coming in are pretty fair,
Aware?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least paranoid.
Definitely bear paranoid,
I don't
I
know,
mean-
some of them are pretty stupid.
that's also true.
Does that sound too?
It only takes one.
But you can't always protect against stupid, so.
Yeah,
Not that I've noticed.
yeah, I think,
You can have the rules in place, and if they don't follow them, then it's, you know, elected.
well, I think that leads nicely into the planning board update. You said you guys have a,
Master plan draft.
awesome,
Oh,
And so,
how many pages is it?
that's, I was about to ask the exact same thing.
67, I think.
That's not bad.
No, I know, and we're going through the Word document, making comments to the side, and then we'll submit them all. And somebody had asked me for a copy of the draft, and I said no, because I think that the planning board should have the first chance at the draft.
Right.
Go ahead and make all their comments, neaten it up according to them, then we'll have our public, session, and we can put it out there in mass. Basically, they, they took all the comments from the big public
Mhm.
meetings that we had and incorporated them into
Okay.
that
Is this
master
the downtown
plan.
master plan or the?
Downtown
growth
master
pol-
plan.
For the growth policy?
We
Not
tend
growth
to
policy
be
yet.
jumping between both.
Okay.
So we have a draft now, and we're working on that. We're also working on the growth policy as well. So, and the growth policy, again, it's just a draft. So we're wading through that as well.
And I'm assuming you're taking quite a bit from the pre-existing and expanding, or?
Growth policy, no, not a lot.
Really?
The reason why is because we were told that there are state rules that we now have to follow, and they reorganized the whole thing
Gotcha.
completely.
Oh.
So it's not gonna resemble the previous growth policy.
Well, I just mean concepts.
Basic concepts are still there, but you're gonna have a hard time finding them.
Gotcha, okay.
Or maybe
So-
it'll be an easier time finding them.
Brand new one.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a completely different format
Okay,
that we've been wading through.
gotcha.
Wow.
And trying to figure out.
So can I ask, for the downtown master plan, has there been a lot of changes from what was kind of presented?
What was presented, the first one that we saw, a lot.
Oh.
Yeah, they've got it a little tighter because of the public input. I've kind of gone through, it's kind of annoying because they use old photos of the downtown plan. I mean, Moni's was in one, and,
Oh.
the Bull and Bear was in one, so, at least they should get some, there
Update
are,
their stock photos.
I don't know when the
Go
photos,
safe and be with Pollard, I mean, like.
it's been a while since Bull and Bear's been gone.
That's only been 30 years.
I just, yeah, you know, I
But
guess I
those
was
types of
hoping
things.
we'd have access to it as business owners and people who are downtown before it got to the stage of like writing it.
Yeah, especially
So
because it's a lot harder to change someone's mind if they've already like concreted it and put it into a draft.
You know,
I can go ahead and send you the draft.
that would be great.
I
Yeah,
have
please.
comments all the way through like crazy.
Perfect.
And
Well, that's
then-
even better then, because then we
Because
can
I
like,
just,
ooh, I
you
don't
know,
like
as
that, but
a,
she's
as
already
a
like almost
downtown
every
business
page.
owner, it's like, you know, you just kind of, and I know Tom Coons felt the same way, you just feel like all these decisions are being made for you, and it
Yeah.
directly affects me, like where can we give our input into this too?
Yeah, but there
So,
are
like, I
some
went
things
to
that
the
they have
meeting,
to.
but the people that were at the meeting were totally going off tangent, talking about
Well, there were the
Alpine
groups.
subdivision over there, the one down by Rock and J. I'm like, what's that got to do with the downtown master plan?
There's these little groups that
Yeah,
meet with those meetings,
yeah.
and that's fine, they got their say-so, because,
Or the lights.
The dark skies
Yeah,
people.
I'm like, no, it's
and the trails
downtown.
people,
We
there's
have-
trails, there was dark
I
skies.
know, and you're just like,
So,
there's,
yeah, they were kind
we
of
have sidewalks downtown, we don't need trails. Like, what?
It was kind of
You know, it just was kind
a
of like,
waste of,
I mean, why, I mean, I get everybody uses downtown, and it affects everybody, but really, it's our tourism center,
Right.
it's our business community, you know, I just felt like we should have been taken,
well, that's what
more
I feel
into
like, if
consideration.
Sandy sends it to you, like she said,
Yeah.
she already has her side notes on it.
yeah.
That might actually be beneficial, because if you're reading it, you'd be like, ooh, I don't agree with that, then you can look over its side notes and be like, oh, Sandy's already addressed it.
yeah, and, but
Cool.
there's also gonna be Jeff's and
Perfect.
everybody
Yeah, I
else's.
think that's great.
I only have
And then
my
you,
comments.
and then you can
I
go down
only
and
have
be
my
like,
comments.
Jeff, so
Oh,
I like.
so I see, you're
yeah.
doing it separate, not a
We're
shared
all
doc.
doing it
Yeah.
separately.
Oh.
Interesting.
Then we're gonna go back.
I
and
want
say,
all of
"Here,"
them.
And
No.
say,
Document?
yes to that one, no to that one, you know, and
Yeah.
then that will be incorporated, and so that would be the plan
could,
that
like,
I would say that,
Google Doc with it, and everybody gets their own color of notes.
yeah, no, I don't have that. I only
Yeah.
have my comments. So, and I don't have the other
No, I
people's
would love it
comments.
if you would send it
Yeah.
to us.
And
I would take
And then
that
if you
too.
have some comments, you can go ahead and
Okay.
send it back to me and I'll incorporate it into
Okay.
mine.
Yeah, and send it to Chelsea too.
Yes, please.
Oh, geez, you guys, I'm telling you,
I don't need it.
thank you.
Thank you.
This
just-
kind
I
of stuff gets me really excited. I really
know.
like this kind of thing.
And I mean,
And it's-
honestly, we've done so much, ever since the downtown revitalization plan, and then we did our, you know, the Main Street program and the downtown what we did before, our action plan. You know, we've incorporated a lot of that.
A lot of that.
And so when you look at it,
No, the,
our downtown
No, I think
is
it's
very nice.
Yeah.
I wanna
And I
like
don't really necessarily
print
want
them
it
and sell them.
all changed,
And
you
this,
know?
this is
My
really
dad
a
had
Main
the
Street
whole
plan, because they're the
original
ones paying for it.
Yeah, and that's what the other one was,
Before-
we did in
right, the Main
2004, it was our Main Street action plan, it's an assessment and action plan.
Yeah.
And so, you know, to me, it's like, what didn't we incorporate, do we want to? You
Yep.
know, and obviously, parking is always the number one issue.
The other thing that I'm gonna be bringing up at planning board is the new state designation on short-term rentals.
oh, what is that, what is the new one?
Okay, here's what happened, is there was a guy that built an ADU in his backyard
Okay,
in a homeowners association.
goes.
They said you can't do that, because he was doing a short-term rental there. They said that's commercial.
But, well, I
It's
mean.
not.
They took him to
Residential
court.
and use.
They took him to court,
Okay.
and the court says it's being used for residential, it's residential use, it's fine.
He's not like selling anything out of it, right? That's what
No.
you-
No.
Yeah, okay,
They took it to the state Supreme Court.
okay.
State Supreme Court says you're making money on it, it's a commercial use. So if you're making money on it, it's a commercial use. We're talking short-term rentals, we're talking long-term rentals,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking anybody with a home-based business. All of
There
those,
goes my Mary Kay.
according to the state, right now, that is
To
a
the state
commercial
Supreme
use.
Court.
That's a commercial use. So then the Department of Revenue says, I can go ahead and charge you property tax based on a commercial instead of a residential.
And they've already been doing that in Bozeman.
So, we're
Or
desperately
commercial online.
hoping that our legislators will get something in Congress and say, this cannot be, because that means all of your long-term rentals are now a commercial use, and they're in zoning. Think of what it would do to our zoning,
Mhm.
where you have blocks and blocks of residential, that we're
Well-
trying to encourage ADUs so that
And
we
now they're
have some
being
of
charged
those.
commercial.
You just, I mean, you can still,
Well, they're-
in our
they're zoning.
residential areas,
No, that's-
we allow for small business, like
But-
home-based businesses.
but the state would trump it.
It's allowed all the way.
Yeah.
State would trump it. You're making money off of a residential use.
Yeah, but we still have it zoned residential, and we know they're making money on the city level.
The
You wouldn't
city's
have to
fine,
cha- You wouldn't have to change the zoning to commercial,
city's fine,
so, yeah.
but the Department of Revenue is gonna change that to a commercial
And-
property.
But that's different than zoning.
But commercial property
Versus.
makes a difference in zoning. I mean, it, honestly, it would be horrific.
But
Who does?
it's, the zone is like the use, not necessarily the
So
building.
let's say you sell the
So,
house,
because if you sold your house, if I had had a home-based business in my house,
Mhm.
and the Department of Revenue was saying that that was commercial, and I was paying property taxes as commercial, and I sold it to someone, it's gonna be their primary home, and they're not doing anything, then they should be able to apply and say, I'm not doing a
It's
business.
no longer
Now
a commercial
Yes,
use.
no longer a commercial use, now I'm residential. So the zone is the use, not the building.
I know,
Like, we're saying, like,
This
you
is
can
a
do
bag
this,
of
this,
snakes.
and this, yeah.
this is a bag
And
of snakes.
I
real, it's a cash grab, and the
Yeah,
other
it's
piece
both.
with it is, with long-term rentals, short-term rentals, it's all residential in nature. You are living in that
You are,
home.
yeah.
Well, we agree, but the state,
I'm aware.
Yeah, I know.
I'm very aware right now.
The state is saying you're making money.
Yep.
So therefore, it's a business. And
Well,
on your
economic money.
taxes, it's a business.
All right, well, let's just go to
And on
everybody
your
on
taxes-
Facebook Marketplace.
And they may also be like, you know, saying that you're, you know, it could be
Like
owned by an
Rochester,
LLC, or, you know, a lot of them aren't.
Are
even-
LLCs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, the long-term rentals and short-term rentals, they're not individually owned
Yep.
either. So, I understand, they're saying this is a business. So, as a property taxes, they're saying, it's a total money grab, I get
Oh.
that, but they're saying it's a business, it's not owned by an individual person, you know, especially if it's not owned by an individual person. They've made
What if
it
it's
a
a
commercial,
trust?
the
they've
whole
made it
thing
a
is,
commercial, I mean, I guess I see where they're coming from, and yes, it's a money grab, and it's like, yeah.
but hopefully this next session they'll, because that's the only way they can stop that.
Yeah,
Because-
it's gotta be put into legislation, and honestly, the smartest way for them to be able to deal with short-term is the same way they do it with long-term. Put it into the Association of not the Association of Realtors, but the Board of Realty. And that is essentially who should be monitoring and creating those rules and those definitions.
Well, I
But-
think the Board of Realty is going to be pushing our legislatures
That's
to,
good.
to talk about the use of it
Yep.
as opposed to making money off of it.
And there's, you know, dozens of examples of this across the country. They have a lot of issues, they had a lot of issues with this in New York, same deal. Had a lot of issues with this down in Florida. Most states and like municipalities lose when they try and turn this into commercial. So that's one thing to be,
Yeah.
Well, and there are people, residents of Montana that are saying residents are paying all the property taxes, and out-of-state corporations are coming in and buying up houses and making money off of them, you know.
they
And
have to pay taxes.
I know they say property taxes, but they want them to pay a higher property tax.
Which is ridiculous. So,
Hmm.
all right,
I'm
just,
just telling where some of this is coming from.
no, I hear ya. 100%. I get where it comes from, but at the same time, like, we're gonna move right along real quickly because we have just a minute left or so. Reviewing the October 22nd and November 12th meeting minutes, because we did not get those approved the past
I
two
didn't
meetings.
see the 12th because I wasn't here. Did anybody take minutes on the meeting that I missed?
No, because I showed up,
There wasn't,
it was you.
it was me. I can make some minutes.
You were
Yeah, well,
there.
the October 22nd meeting, minutes I went ahead and sent.
Yeah, I saw those again, so
Okay.
I will make a motion to approve the October 22nd meeting minutes.
I say okay.
And then the November 12th, like, I didn't roll in till,
Yeah, no, you were there like the last 5 minutes. It was just me. Do we even need to like have, is that even a quorum?
Well,
Like,
it's not a quorum.
Yep.
It's not an official meeting.
yep, so we won't worry about those minutes. We will.
I would just have one input, there was no quorum.
Perfect.
No official meeting.
Done. All right. Any other comments? Angela, I see you on there. Do you want to say anything real quick? We got about 2 minutes.
Oh, she jumped.
I do not need to say anything. Thank you, though.
Thanks, Angela. Appreciate you.
You
And,
bet. Thank you.
on that
Happy
note, we will
Thanksgiving.
adjourn this. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Angela.
Bye-bye. Bye.
We will adjourn it.